If the idea of moving to a suburb bores you a little bit, well, hold on to your seats because we've got 6 great small towns right outside of Portland that could be the perfect fit for you. Let's go. My name's Aaron Cullen and this is Brandon Cullen. And together we have a real estate company right here in Portland, Oregon. And today we're walking in downtown historic Oregon City. This downtown is super cute. It's over 100 years old. And I think Oregon City was actually the first town. I gotta look up my history a little bit here, but Oregon City, here, let me bring up a little fun fact, but Oregon City is over 100 years old. It's got a lot of character, a lot of history here. We're coming up here to this iconic Oregon City Municipal elevator. If I turn the camera around right here, it's a little observation post right here. So if you're in town, definitely recommend check it out. You can see some really cool views from up there.
Yeah, because what you can't see is that Oregon City is along the Willamette River. There's a huge falls right over here. So I think from up in that elevator, you can see the river, you can see the falls, you can see across the river. I actually just saw on one of these signs that Oregon City won Best American Main Street in 2018.
Wow.
And I really feel like that is perfectly representative of the difference between a suburb and a small town. The reason people aren't necessarily excited, or a lot of people aren't necessarily excited about moving to the suburbs, is it can feel a little bland, like there's no city center, there's no personality. You kind of have that image of people pulling into their garages at the end of the day and the garage door closes and you're kind of isolated, versus a small town where there's a gathering place, there are local activities, there are businesses, restaurants, shops that you love, you run into people on the street, you feel just more of a sense of community and belonging. Now, I think suburbs are popular because they're closer to downtown or the city center. And so if you don't want to be in like the density and the grit of the city, the suburb historically provided a little more space and quiet and just a different pace of life while you could still commute to work and get right into the city. But now that so many people are working remotely, have small businesses, and can afford to live a little further out, these small towns that we're going to talk about become like really viable option.
That's right. And some of the added benefits of these small towns and living here is they have a lot more control of how their little town is run. So with that usually comes higher rated school districts than the average in the state. You get better policing, which equals lower crime. They're away from the main city center of Portland, which is going to have your higher crime statistically. So there's a lot of those kind of reasons that people tend to flock to these smaller towns, that people will call suburbs, but they really are their own towns.
So let's start with Oregon City since we're here today, and then we're going to talk about a handful of other small towns right outside Portland.
Yeah.
So Oregon City, Aaron mentioned it's older, it has this great main street, it has a lot of, I would say, character, these old brick buildings, it has great restaurants and a lot of like quirky shops along Main Street, which is called
Breweries.
Main Street.
Yep.
Yes.
There's Bridgeview Brewery right there. And then here's 100-year-old bridge right here that we just drove over that goes right over the Willamette, right into the center of downtown. Now, this downtown, like most of the others that we're going to talk about, has a farmer's market. They'll have local festivals where they'll shut down some of the streets. It has this downtown core, has these over 100-year-old buildings, a lot of them. Some of them are historically protected.
Like Art Deco sort of style. There's a brewery and like a food truck area up here. I think of all the ones we're gonna cover today, Oregon City has the most quintessential Portland quirkiness to it.
Yeah.
For me, this one's like got the like creative sort of just like that Portland style to it.
Yeah, but it's also thrown in there. There's a little bit of like country flair to it. You might see someone with a cowboy hat on and boots. So you get this cool like mixing pot, I feel like, here in Oregon City, because you have this kind of older Western feel of a Western town mixed in with kind of a urban feel to it as well.
In terms of housing prices, I think this is the least expensive of all the areas we're going to talk about today. What would you say in terms of comparing this to the median Portland housing?
Yep, this is going to be the most affordable area of the ones that we're going to cover. We're also going to talk about Sherwood and Beaverton, and they all are up a little bit higher. Oregon City really does have a good variety of housing available. So you have housing starting at, say, 400,000 on up to 800, 900 is kind of your average home you're going to see in there. And you can get, that 2,400 square foot to 2,900 square foot home built in the, say, 90s is going to be around that like 650 average mark to 700. And then you can get a home that's a little bit smaller on down in the low 600s into the 500s. And to give you an example, I just saw a new construction home that just went live, and that is 540,000 for about 1,800 square feet, 3-bed, 2-bath, and it's farmhouse style. Just really cute house, but it's got one shared wall, so it's called an attached single family home with one shared wall in the middle, and that's like the garage, so your house isn't even really necessarily the living space attached. So that just gives you a little reference point for the housing here, but it is going to be the most affordable. And let's talk about schools.
Yeah, I just looked it up, and on niche.com, schools here get a B-, but there's a lot of variety within the schools in the area. So I think you mentioned there's like a really great magnet middle school here, a high-rated high school, and so it's going to depend on, your choices in the area that you're in.
There's a variety from, according to niche, from C's all the way up to A pluses in the schools. So the average rating on niche.com is that B-. So what do we want to talk about for our next town?
Well, you mentioned Sherwood, so let's talk about Sherwood.
So Sherwood is really close to here. If I pull up the map here for you guys, it's just to the southwest of Portland.
In some ways, Sherwood has some of the things that you mentioned with Oregon City. It has a super cute, old, historic downtown area. I really like that Sherwood downtown. And then Sherwood feels more rural than most of the small towns we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
It's out in wine country in some ways. And so it's got wine country bordering the sides of it and a lot of agricultural feeling there. It has a lot of new construction. I think last year, the Street of Dreams, which is a new home and design showcase where there are a handful of homes that are built, designed, and then the public gets to come tour them. A lot of cities have something like that. Last year was in Sherwood. I think for a lot of people, it's really, really appealing for all those reasons. Plus, it has great schools.
Yeah, it's the number 3 ranked school district in the state of Oregon, according to niche.com.
You've had some clients in the last few years that have reached out specifically interested in Sherwood and have bought homes in Sherwood. What would you say they were looking for, and why were they drawn to Sherwood?
I'd say the main thing that kept coming up with clients that they were really drawn to Sherwood was the schools and the low crime, the safety. Extremely low crime there if you pull up the crime stats, and it definitely has that small town, close-knit community feel because you are a little further away from all the other towns that we're going to talk about. This one kind of feels, I don't want to say the most isolated, but it is a little bit
apart.
More set apart. So it does have a little bit more of that country suburban feel to it. But again, one of the things that I like about it is there are a lot of new construction there. A lot of the homes are built in the 90s that have been kept up great, and they have new construction they're still building out neighborhoods right now. So if you want something brand new, they have that as well.
And would you say because of the location being a little more set apart, your money goes a little further there?
Yeah, your money definitely goes a little further, but the word is out on Sherwood and prices have gone up there because of that highly rated school district. They actually built the most expensive high school a few years ago, and it's gigantic. It's amazing, just state-of-the-art facility there. So they definitely put a lot of their tax dollars into the schools there. Your average price in Sherwood is going to be around that $650,000 mark. But again, you can get some a little bit less expensive, and you can go a little bit more expensive. That's going to be your average, is going to be right in there about that 650.
So if you love like wine country and that more agricultural small town feeling, I would definitely check out Sherwood.
Yeah, I would definitely put Sherwood on the top of your list if you like that idea of being a little bit more removed from the city. But again, you're gonna have all the amenities are gonna be there, you know, all your food shopping, restaurants, all that stuff. You're not too far from Portland if you wanna have the use to that.
Okay, I think an easy one to segue to from Sherwood would be Wilsonville. Now, Wilsonville is the furthest south of all of these small towns, again, set out a little bit further. And I think what really differentiates Wilsonville is it's got a lot of brand new development. And it feels like a master planned community in a lot of ways, especially in the Charbonneau area of Wilsonville. A lot of new construction. And then there are also parts of Wilsonville that are more rolling country, borders on West Lynn, which we'll also talk about today. But some of that just beautiful rolling countryside, again, some very small farms or properties with horses, even some vineyards. Probably the most different of all the small towns we're talking about in that way. What do you think?
I feel like the vibe is everything is new there. Like new shopping developments. It definitely feels a little bit more suburban to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say it doesn't have the same old core to the town with like a main gathering center to me. It has actually a little bit more of the big box. So that's where Costco and Target are, even the ones that we would go to. And it doesn't have quite as much of the like charming downtown area. It's newer. It has that real contrast and variety between the newer subdivisions versus the rolling country farmland. It also shares a school district with West Lynn. So West Lynn and Wilsonville are one school district, second ranked school district in the state.
Second ranked school district in the state, the Wilsonville West Lynn School District.
And then what would you say about pricing?
So pricing, you're gonna have in Wilsonville, your average price is gonna be in that, say, $700,000 to $800,000 price range is gonna kind of be your average there in Wilsonville. Then when you go, we talk about West Lynn next, because they're kind of connected because they share the same school district. Your average price point is going to be around the $800,000 price point.
Let's talk about West Lynn. West Lynn is similar to Wilsonville in that it shares some of that beautiful rolling countryside with small farms, vineyards. West Lynn also borders the Willamette River. There are gorgeous homes along the river in West Lynn. One thing that differentiates West Lynn is it has a really great downtown area. So Old Town Willamette is downtown, a great street for St. Patrick's Day Festival. They have something called the Garage, which is like a big food truck, outdoor eating area that's really like a gathering place on a nice day.
We go there all the time and meet friends there, take the kids. It's very family friendly, the downtown area and the restaurants there. They do, you know, the farmers market, the seasonally farmers market there, high rated schools there, which we just talked about. I say the housing, what it kind of feels like, and there it definitely feels, you got this historic Willamette area of West Lynn, which is the walking distance to the downtown area. That is a lot older. You'll find homes that are 100 years old there, and they're building new construction there, and you'll have homes built in the 2000s and the 90s there as well. So you do have a real mix there if you want that walkability. But then most of West Lynn is up the hill across the river there, and it's very hilly. You're up higher there. A lot of the homes are gonna have views. It feels very suburban up there. That area was really built out, say, in the 90s and 2000s. Has sidewalks, very walkable to parks and things like that, but you're gonna need to jump in the car for the most part to get to the downtown area, get to the grocery store.
Yeah, I think the last thing I'd say is that people love living in West Lynn. They're very proud to live there. It has a really strong sense of community. We have some clients that moved there from the Phoenix area, and we see them all the time, and they are so in love. They're so glad that they ended up in West Lynn.
Yeah, there's some amazing homes in West Lynn, and I would compare that also to Lake Oswego, which we can talk about next. And a lot of people, there's kind of like the rivalry with the schools, you know, between Lake Oswego and West Lynn. They're the number 1 and number 2 school districts there in the state. And, you know, it's a very friendly rivalry, and you really don't even notice the difference in some parts of, like, when you're driving from Lake Oswego to West Lynn. That's how similar a lot of the housing stock is in some of that areas, because they do butt up right against each other.
Yeah, so Lake Oswego is a little closer to Portland. It's a little closer in. So I definitely think, you know, from Lake Oswego, it's easier to get into the city, the airport, all of that. The Willamette River also goes through Lake Oswego, and then Lake Oswego also obviously has Oswego Lake. Similar, the downtown of Lake Oswego really is a core and a hub. We've got the farmers market, we've got all kinds of community activities. I think the city of Lake Oswego cares so much about the quality of life of its citizens, the kinds of programs that the city puts on and the Parks and Rec Department put on. It's really such a family-friendly, family-oriented community.
It's been nicknamed or named the City of Trees. I think it's going on over 30 years now in a row because it has very tight restrictions against cutting down native trees. You'll see a lot of huge Douglas firs and the native pine trees there. People love the nature aspect. There's 30 parks there. Parks and Rec is really well respected, and they put a lot of money into
just the natural beauty.
The natural beauty, having access to the river and to the lake, having both of those kind of there as well. And you're so close to downtown, which is really nice. You're like a 20-minute drive to downtown Portland from there, which also means you're also close to the airport and just all the city elements as well.
The con that comes with all of those benefits is pricing.
Yeah, so in Lake Oswego, you're looking about, say, a 20 to 30% premium in housing cost, say, over Westland. Lake Oswego is going to be the most expensive town we're going to talk about, and the average price point there is going to be a little bit over $1 million at about $1 million to $1.1 million is going to be your average home cost, but you can get like an older 3.2 all the way down to like $650,000.
One other just like qualitative comment about Lake Oswego housing is that there are new builds in Lake Oswego, but fewer than in Westland, Wilsonville, Sherwood. And so it's a little bit older, not an old housing stock like 80s, 90s, but a little bit more of an outdated housing stock in some ways. So sometimes, being interested in like a project could get you a better deal. If you are curious about Lake Oswego though, we have so many other videos on our channel with specifics about Lake Oswego, so make sure to check those out. Now let's talk about Beaverton.
Beaverton, I have a lot of clients moving to Beaverton. It's a town of a little over 100,000 people, so it's really big. There's a lot of different sections to Beaverton. On the north side, you've got the Old Town Beaverton, and then on the south part of Beaverton and the west part of Beaverton, that's the area that I personally like the most. If you have any questions about it, definitely go ahead and reach out, give me a call, or shoot me an email. My information is right down there in the description area. So Southwest Beaverton is the area with all the new construction. They open up farmland there, like every 10 years they'll rezone some farmland to be able to be developed in and around Portland.
A lot of people know about Beaverton because Nike headquarters are in Beaverton. Nike's a big employer here in the Portland area. Beaverton is also closer to the city, closer to downtown. It's in a completely different area than a lot of these other small towns we're talking about. It's further west. It's also closer to things like the Japanese gardens and the zoo, and so it's just in a very different area. Again, it has a lot of variety because it is bigger. It has 100,000 people in it. According to niche.com, the schools in Beaverton get an A, very high quality schools in Beaverton. And I think, it draws a variety of people because of the jobs there, families interested in the schools. And again, it's just so much bigger. So it's a little bit harder to narrow down on like the personality of Beaverton.
Beaverton really is a mix. So whatever you're kind of into type of neighborhood, you can probably find there. If you want that brand new neighborhoods, new construction, master plan, they've got those. They're average in that $750,000 price point right now in that Southwest Beaverton. And then you can go to a little bit further into it as you go up into Sexton Mountain and Murray Hill. And those areas can be, say like 650, 700, up in that range, up to 750. And then as you go a little bit further north, you get into the older part of Beaverton, which is the older downtown area. There's a lot of new development all throughout Beaverton, a lot of different shopping centers. They've got food truck pods there. Pretty much anything you can find in any of the other parts around Portland, you're gonna find in Beaverton. Plus, it has the biggest metro hub there in Beaverton because of the Silicon Forest. Nike's there, Intel there. You've got all these tech companies there. So a lot of employees commute and can use the buses or the train to go into downtown.
Okay, we covered a lot today, tried to give highlights on all those small towns.
Yes.
I really hope that it was helpful. And gave you a sense of what other things are on offer here besides living in the city of Portland or in the suburbs. If you have any questions, you want to dive deeper into any of these, please reach out. We would love to talk about what you are specifically looking for and help point you in the right direction.
Information's right down in the description area. And if you guys enjoyed this video, stay tuned for the next one coming up right now.